Hello, good evening and welcome to Secure the Continent. I am Benga Aborowa. This is where you get to know all the security situations across the continent. But before we delve into today's discussion, let's take a look at some of the top security headlines across Africa. Sudanese nationals seek refuge in neighbouring South Sudan. United Nations peacekeepers leave Mali following threats. Israel-Hamas war, drone injures 6 Egyptians in border town. A security concern rises as limited gas supply causes power outage in Ghana. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. After months of fragile calm in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, fighting has unfortunately resumed in the region. The resurgence of clashes in the Eastern DRC involving M23 rebels, other armed groups and soldiers believed to be part of the forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo shatter a 6-month period of fragile calm in the region. The latest hostilities are taking place in and around the M23-controlled strategic Masisi territory of North Kivu province near the country's border with Rwanda and Uganda. We have detailed information for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
The Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is unsettled again after a period of relative calm. The region has enjoyed calm for the past 6 months, but the atmosphere of trouble has always loitered around the region. M23 rebels have resumed hostilities with the Congolese military and its support from the rest of the region. The current violence happening around North Kivu, Congo's resource-rich region, near its border with Rwanda and Uganda. Other than soldiers, local rebel groups have also attacked M23 rebels to the excitement of locals in Kitsanga. Interestingly, the Congolese government is also believed to have factions of rebel groups that it supports, despite claims that it is neutral in its involvement. The proposed withdrawal of the East African Intervention Force from the DRC also throws up another shade of contention in the country's security strength. After half a year of calm, a storm is brewing again in the DRC, and the continent must come alive.
Now, joining me tonight to Secure the Continent to discuss this is Dr. David Matanga, Global Affairs Analyst. He joins us from London in the United Kingdom. We also have Gideon Baleke, a political analyst, who joins us live from Toronto in Canada. And also Dr. Wale Ojewale, an expert on conflicts, organized crime and security governance in Western Central Africa. He joins us from the Senegalese capital, Dakar. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on the program.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'd like to start with Dr. Ojewale in Senegal. Can you delve deeper into the historical and socio-political factors that have contributed to the resurgence of conflicts in the Eastern DRC? There's almost any week or month that we don't hear about incidences of violence in this region. And while you're giving us this analysis, could you also focus on the various regional dynamics at play in this region?
Thank you so much, Wenga. The starting point would be to underscore the fact that the DRC case is that of a case of an orphan that everybody pretends to be taking care of while extracting some benefit or some illicit profit through whatever the orphan has at its disposal. So it has a very long history. And I think the perpetual instability in the country is a function of several external actors who have decided to continue to meddle with the affairs of the country. Based on whoever you are listening to or the available record, whether it is World Bank or IMF or even African-based reports from African think tanks, this is a country that has resources in excess of 24 trillion USD in terms of valuation. I've personally traveled to DRC, particularly the eastern part of the country, and I can tell you that it's one of the most blessed landscapes that you can see in Africa. But the experience in terms of the natural resource endowment has never really reflected in the lives of in the quality of lives of the people. So we have a number of internal contradictions and external factors that have produced the conflict profile that you see in the country. At the core of that is the resources, which everybody, it serves the interests of the different armed groups, that the country remains perpetually unstable so that they can gain access into that resources and mining and trading it in the underground economy. That is the number one factor. The second factor is also the role of the neighboring country in all this, who are serving as the conduit pipe for the resources that are illicitly mined in the country. And then I think it also serves the interest of some of those actors around that corridor, that the country remains perpetually divided, perpetually unstable, to be able to take advantage of that illicit activity that is going on, particularly in the eastern part of the country. And I think the last factor is that the government has not been able to muster courage to actually provide indigenous solution to the crisis that has lingered in the country. So you have Kinshasa that is pretending to be finding solution to the crisis, but is completely detached several kilometers away along the Atlantic Ocean, whereas the conflict is tucking into the deeper part of the country. So you have a combination of historical, external, and internal contradictions that have made the country perpetually ungovernable, that has made the country perpetually unstable as far as that region is concerned. And I think, even though we probably have not gotten to that point of talking about the solution, we need a functional DRC to have a stable African, particularly when you look at the global conversation around alternative energy now. DRC is very, very strategic to that global conversation. And it is in our collective interest that we find solution to this crisis by supporting the people to look for a way out of this imbroglio.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ojewale. I'd like to bring in Dr. Matanga in London into the conversation. Now, Dr. Matanga, there's a running joke that the DRC has the highest amount of rebel groups in the world, and that even the Congolese army can be classified as a rebel group. My question to you is, Dr. Matanga, who are those responsible for the violence, the continuous violence we've been seeing in the eastern DRC? Who are those fomenting trouble, and how do the ideologies and strategies of different armed groups in the region, such as the M23 rebels, vary, and how have they evolved over time?
First of all, thank you very much for calling me and inviting me to this show. I'm going to be very candid and very, very straightforward on this question, because I have been one of the few people who has been very critical. I've seen so many of these agreements, the Sun City Agreement, all the Saka Agreement, all these things have been there. But let me be very candid. On the 9 neighbors of Congo, including Congo itself, none of them are honest. What brings chaos in that place? Factor number one, on top of what my friend Dr. Wale has said, dishonest. The government of Congo is dishonest. The 9 countries are dishonest. All the people surrounding Congo are dishonest. And I've said this, and I will be honest. It is not a joke. It is not anything to talk about. Congo has got 131 rebel groups on its soil. Surely, who in the world can allow 131 rebel groups? A government that is supposed to control, protect the civilians, has allowed an existence of 131 rebel groups. And the government itself has also formed some rebel groups amongst the rebels, paying them to also fight other rebels. So when you come to this, who funds them? Where do they come from? Of course, all the 9 countries that surround Congo, right from Central African Republic, Congo, DRC, Uganda, Rwanda, Zambia, Angola, name all those countries that Zambia, all those countries, Burundi, those countries that border Congo, they have something somewhere which they have not told us and which they don't tell any mediator. I told President Uhuru Kenyatta frankly, if the leaders come on table to negotiate peace and they don't tell you who is funding the rebels, and if the rebels come on table and they don't tell you who is giving them the arms, quit. Leave this process. Leave it. Because Mr. President, the former president, is my friend. I always tell him this, and one day he will say I was right. Leave this until these guys can tell the truth, until the rebels themselves that you are trying to bring on table. I have negotiated a peace process before in Africa, one of the longest wars in Africa, the Lord Resistance Army. But Konyi told us the truth. Who was arming him? It was Bashir. Government of Uganda told us the truth. They were arming SPLA to fight Bashir. Therefore, we knew where the arms were coming from, and we told them from now onwards, no more arms. We want to talk peace. But these gentlemen, the leaders of these countries that are well positioned, have not told the truth. And that is why this conflict is resurfacing.
Okay, we still have a lot to unpack on the program, Dr. Matanga. I'd like to bring the only Congolese on the panel into the conversation, Gideon Beleke in Toronto, to join this conversation. Now, Gideon, could you provide a detailed analysis of the power shift in Masisi and its implications for the local population and the broader regional stability? What happened in Masisi that saw some skirmishes, and also what's the current situation with M23 rebels in the eastern DRC?
Well, first and foremost, the unfortunate situation currently in the eastern DRC, especially in the Masisi, is the IDP situation. We have so many people who are internally displaced now, almost reaching 5 million, and that's so alarming, you know. And we have more than 1 million other Congolese who will flee the country, who will flee that region because of all this chaotic situation that is being imposed on the people. You know, people are victims of what I call the myriad of geostrategic interest, internal interest, from certain leaders, certain actors, and certain regional bodies, certain countries, and certain multinationals. And the situation currently in the Masisi is alarming, critical. People are suffering. They are facing major displacements. And I mean, everything is alarming. And there is fights going on between a movement that was created by Congolese young people, a movement called Wazalendo. You know, when people don't have no one to defend them, they have to defend themselves, and they take charge. And those are the people who are now fighting the M23 at the forefront. And so we're watching at the situation, and we look at what will be unfolded in the near future.
Now, staying with you, Gideon, you mentioned the Wazalendo. Who are this Wazalendo, and what specific tactics and objectives characterize this group, and how do they fit into the framework of armed actors in the eastern DRC?
Well, the Wazalendo is not a militia, is not a rebel group. These are young people, and the movement wasn't born today. You know, there is two Wazalendo, and we have to make a clear distinction here. There is the Wazalendo that is the Messianic Church, those people who are rioted in Goma by the FRDC, and we have this rhetoric of Wazalendo movement, because the name Wazalendo is combatant. You know, in their local language. And so these young people, young men are recruiting others because they've seen these terrorists progressing into their cities. And that's why they've decided to take charge. And I mean, this is not a new thing. We've seen this in the past. We've seen young people being mobilized against the terrorists, being mobilized against rebel groups who are oppressing and aggressive people in the past in the DRC. This is not something new. Of course, I'm not supporting civilians who pick up guns, but you know, this is a result of something. And as someone elaborated it before, you know, we have systematic failure in the state's machinery. And it's important to fix it. It's important to fix the army. It's important to fix our strategic operations when it comes to our defense priorities, you know. We have all this myriad of issues we have to fix. But I totally understand, because if I was living as well in Goma right now, I could have done the same thing the Wazalendos are doing. You know, we have to protect ourselves. If you have no one to protect you, and you've seen your mother being raped, you've seen your little sister being raped, you've seen your brother being kidnapped, you've seen your father being massacred, the only choice will be to defend those who you still cherish. And that's what those young people are doing. They are defending their land, and I applaud them. But the thing is, the state should take its own responsibility. The FRDC should take its own responsibility to conduct those operations. But what doesn't happen for now, because we look like people are left on themselves, and that's not good in terms of balance.
Thank you very much, Gideon. Dr. Joale, typically when you see United Nations blue helmets, people welcome them with open arms because they signify they're peacekeepers and they bring about hope. But it seems to be different these days. You hear people chanting UN troops should leave, MONUSCO dégage in French in the DRC. Now, President Felix Tshisekedi, his efforts to expedite MONUSCO's withdrawal significant. He wants them to go as fast as soon as December. Could you provide an analysis of the political, security and humanitarian implications of this move? Does the FARDC have the capacity to fill the vacuum that will be left by MONUSCO when they eventually depart? And why is the president in a hurry to get rid of the United Nations Stabilization mission in the Congo?
Two things. One, there is election that is around the corner, and you expect a lot of political rhetorics and populism, particularly feeding into what people want to hear and what people want to see. If you look at the trajectory of United Nations peacekeeping mission in Africa, particularly when you look at issues happening in the Sahel, I think people are becoming disenchanted, and they think it has probably outlived its usefulness. Then there is a constant call for pushing them out, and I think there is also the local public sentiment that is in support of that. So any serious politicians who want to probably get some votes is also going to latch onto that. So I think to a large extent there is a political explanation for the call and the support on the part of the president to see MONUSCO moving out of that place. And I think by and large, it has also created a security logjam in the region. You have different actors coming to say they want to engage in peacekeeping. You can't do peacekeeping forever. If peacekeeping is lasting for more than a decade, lasting to close to 2 decades, and is not producing the necessary results that the people want, the necessary outcome that is supposed to improve the quality of the life of the people by first providing security. We can't blame the people for calling for an hand-to-hand the UN peacekeeping operation. That is the number one thing. The second thing is the fact that, like I said, the security logjam, a lot is happening now that is not clearly defined in terms of who is doing what. And I think what is actually going on is people, nations, corporations, actors are masquerading as peacekeeper whereas there is also the political economic of why they are actually present on the soil. There are numerous reports that have indicted even security actors, peacekeepers, in terms of abuses that they've committed, how they have also soiled their hand in mineral extraction in the country. So it appears like if you go back to the initial illustration that I created, that Congo is like a mine, an orphan that is being raped by many who are projecting themselves as someone who actually wants to take care of the country. So bear that in mind. And then the following question that you asked in terms of what is the capacity of the government security architecture in responding to the imminent fallout of the withdrawal of this peacekeeping mission. Don't forget, they are also calling for the withdrawal of East African peacekeeping operation in the country. I think if we draw lessons from what we have seen, whether from Afghanistan, the withdrawal of the US, whether from Sahel, the withdrawal of the peacekeeping mission, with the withdrawal of the G5 Sahel and everything. And as someone who has also understudied the DRC in the recent time and also traveled to DRC to see things for myself, I think I would largely say the state is lacking in capacity in responding to the imminent security challenges. M23 is very, very sophisticated, and it is drawing strength from available network in terms of external actors that are providing the resources that M23 is using to prosecute its terror operation, its violent operation in the region. There are places that people cannot even access. You can't put your car on the road and travel from Goma to Bukavu. You can't try that. There are a lot of ungoverned spaces that the armed groups have taken over in those places. So when you now look at the withdrawal of this peacekeeping mission, for whatever intention and purpose that the government and the people are calling for, which to a large extent, like I've said, is quite justifiable in some sense, I think I am not fully convinced that Tshisekedi is well prepared for what is going to probably befall the country. And when you look at the sheer humanitarian consequence or fallout of what we have now, having about 5 million persons already internally displaced, and then schools are closed, hospitals cannot operate at optimal level, I think we might probably see further degeneration of quality of life in that region, as it's been displayed on the screen right now from the studio there in terms of what is happening in the DRC. So it bodes ill for the country, and I'm not optimistic about what I think is going to be the fallout of this crisis. Drawing lessons from places where we have seen the withdrawal, whether it is in Afghanistan or in Mali or Burkina Faso in the recent time. Overall, what we have seen is that it is the armed group that actually gain advantage in terms of this withdrawal as they continue to feed the vacuum that will be created by this possible withdrawal. Congo is a very hard nut to crack, and the answer is neither here nor there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ojewale. Dr. Matanga, still talking about filling a vacuum. Dr. Ojewale suggested that, you know, President Tshisekedi might be taking this decision for political reasons, and also he did look at the possibility of having an Afghanistan-type situation following the withdrawal. Another external force that is in the Congo and that is about to leave is the East African Community Regional Forces, EACRF. My question to you is, why have the Congolese authorities, knowing that MONUSCO is leaving, why have they chosen not to extend the East African Community Regional Forces mandate further? And what are the key sticking points that led to this decision, especially concerning the M23 issue? Local Congolese people will tell you that they were not even effective in the first place, that they only came to the DRC for tourism.
First of all, I agree with what the UN is just another bunch of very bad people. They have not even liberated the toilet in Congo. Not even an area where people can go safely. 18 years, nothing. 18 years, they have been part of the looting spree of the minerals, causing more havoc while natives are dying. So, if they are to go, let's meet in hell. let them get up. On East African force, I disagree totally with Tshisekedi. Tshisekedi is also part of the problems of Congo. And I told you in the opening remarks, and Mr. Bekele is up there, he has already told you that if the government cannot defend them, they have created Wazalendo group. Wazalendo means fighters. Bekele does not know much Swahili. It is me, let me explain you, means fighters, Wazalendo, patriotic fighters of those who defending their seat, their country, their place, because they have nobody to defend them. The Congolese army itself is fragmented. It's one of the poorest armies on the continent of Africa. It can't even fight a war. It has been there, it has taken part in looting. It also takes part in export of this excavation of these minerals. So we have a problem. When it comes to East African Stabilization Force, I totally disagree with Tshisekedi. He wants to be an African, at the same time he wants to be a French speaker. Sorry, time has come for us to tell each other the truth. Either you want to be in Africa or you go to France and live there. East African Community created a stabilization force composed of several countries, except those allegedly that have problems with Tshisekedi. And we all agreed, we are mature. We have been in politics with Tshisekedi's father. Tshisekedi is a younger man, and he cannot threaten us because of the volume. We did discuss with his father. He has been a good guy until his death. But this gentleman here has come with a different policy that you don't know whether it is life, east or west. To say East African stabilizing force to get out, you are going to an election in December. Will this election take place? Where will this election take place? Will the people in North Kivu register to vote? The other election, 2 million people did not vote. Now we are starting a game of prolonging another battle of election. This election is of DRC. Why Tshisekedi wants all the armies out is for chaos to come into Goma and North Kivu and South Kivu. Then he will say, we can't hold the elections. Because today if he holds the elections, he will lose. He will lose. So you can see behind all this, there is this election fever that is coming up in Tshisekedi's stomach and brain, that we must have all these people out. Then we can tell the world that unfortunately the situation in Eastern Congo is unmanageable. And as a result, we cannot hold an election. But sincerely speaking, for UN to go, let me finish this point. For UN to go, I am one of the happiest people to see those people who have defiled, maimed, raped our women in DRC Congo to leave immediately because they have done nothing. 18 years, surely. What have they stabilized? Thank
you very much, Dr. Matanga. A fine place to go on a break. I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Wale Ojawale, who will not be joining us in the second half. Thank you for your time and insights. But do stay with us. The conversation continues with Gideon Beleke and Dr. David Matanga. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.